This is the DAR Today podcast, and I'm your host, Brooke Bullmaster Stewart. Oh, can you believe it's the end of June? It is amazing how fast it has flown by, isn't it? It kind of reminds me of that quote by Adell when she says, "And since all of this loveliness cannot be heaven, I know in my heart it's June." But we have so many things to look forward to that are coming up. Of course, this week starts our annual Continental Congress. Very exciting. And then before you know it, once Congress is over, here comes 4th of July and our Independence Day right here in America. So exciting. So of course, you know what I'm going to ask you. We would love it if you would let us know how you and your friends and family are going to celebrate this fantastically American holiday. We love to read your comments. In fact, we'll be talking today in one of our segments about ways in which you can plan and participate in patriotic activities. There are some daughters out there doing some incredibly fun and creative things, and we want to share them with you. But we'll start our episode today with a wild story about a fantastic woman, one of our fellow DAR members, a dazzling daughter, Carrie Adell Strahorn. It is a pretty neat story, and I think you'll agree. So let's jump right into that story today. And hey, thank you so much for being here with us.
There are some amazing women in history that we just don't talk enough about. Women who changed the world in small yet significant ways. Carrie Adell Strahorn, the Queen of the Pioneers, is one of these women. Carrie Adell Strahorn was born in Marengo, Illinois, on New Year's Day in 1854. Adell, or Dell as she was commonly referred to, came from a pioneering family. Her paternal grandparents, Dr. John and Louise Babcock Green, founded Greenfield, Ohio, where Dell's father was raised. Her maternal family were descendants of the third Vice President of the United States, Aaron Burr. Her mother was born in New York. All her ancestors were known to love travel and adventure. Dell writes that in her early years she swore to never be a pioneer. She wanted no part in being dragged around the uncharted territory and had no interest in living a life of danger. However, education, adulthood, and love sent her down a path her young self would never have imagined. Dell's first love in her life was music, and her pursuit of music and education led her to Ann Arbor, where she attended the University of Michigan. It's here that she would pursue and complete a degree in music. She jumped at the chance to study and hone her skills abroad in Europe. As a classically trained vocalist, her grace and elegance caught the eye of Robert Strahorn, who was at the time a journalist covering the Sioux War. Robert Strahorn was not the type of man that Dell's family thought she would marry. He was not educated nor refined. He had dropped out of school at the age of 10. Despite his lack of formal education, Robert became a well-known frontier journalist and lived a life very different from Dell's. In the vernacular of the time, he was referred to as a tramp reporter. Definitely not someone her family would choose for her to marry. But the heart wants what the heart wants. Dell found him fascinating and felt his ambition matched hers. In 1877, the couple wed and began an adventure Dell would never have imagined, even in her wildest dreams. Robert knew he was in for a life with a strong-willed woman when, at the bride's request, the word obey was left out of the wedding ceremony. She stated that they were going to Wyoming, where there was women's suffrage and women had rights. Robert had written a book on the resources and opportunities available in the Wyoming and Dakota territories. This book caught the interest of the Union Pacific Railroad. Union Pacific President Jay Gould asked Robert Strahorn to head up a literary bureau for the railroad. The bureau's task would be to gather information and prepare guidebooks for prospective settlers along the Union Pacific track lines. It was a job that would require endless travel in unexplored wild places. The railroad wanted, no, they needed travelers and settlers to explore and settle the West. Robert desperately wanted to take the job, and Dell agreed under one condition, that she be allowed to join him. Robert told the railroad the terms under which he would accept the position. They reluctantly agreed, but made it known that the frontier was not the place for an elegant lady. Little did they know, Adell was not a woman to be underestimated. She would seize the reins of life and adventure and take off at a gallop toward her future. A future that held 33 years of travel that covered thousands of miles by stagecoach, saddle, and railroad car into remote and often dangerous regions of the wild, wild West. She wrote, and I quote, "The matrimonial venture did not lead me to the duties of a matron with home, children, and windows full of flowers, but on our launch was pushed into the sea of adventure paralleled by none save that of my own pard, whom I followed for 30 years, wheresoe'er he blazed the trail." End quote. Pard was what she called her husband, Robert. Their frontier home base was Cheyenne, Wyoming. Adell described it as follows: "A forlorn, homesick-looking town, without a spear of grass, without a tree within the scope of the eye, without water except as it was plumbed for household use, with a soil sandy, hard, and barren, and with never-ceasing wind." Robert wrote many books, magazine articles, and pamphlets on their travels and researched the opportunities of the frontier. He chronicled the weather, terrain, business trajectories, and forecasted settlers' and investors' prosperity in the undiscovered areas of those remote territories. Adell kept herself busy with a different type of writing. She journaled about all she saw and experienced. I quote here, "The manuscript from my own pen flowed more in a humorous vein, showing a search for romantic history, social status, pastimes, and conditions of the people already in the new land, weaving together the ludicrous and amusing episodes and describing the grandeur of the scenery." End quote. She took up social causes and helped to better infrastructure in the new frontier towns. At her husband's side, she encountered many trials due to the unpredictability of traveling into the untamed West. As a woman, she was not allowed certain opportunities and rights that her fellow male travelers could enjoy. One such example occurred when the superintendent at Yellowstone National Park told her in 1880 that she would not be allowed to travel into the park because it was too dangerous for a woman. She relentlessly argued with him until he acquiesced. She was completely in awe of the park's breathtaking beauty and wrote extensively about it. Robert and Adell were a team, and they were side by side as they traveled territories and states. Robert took on a position as manager of the Idaho-Oregon Land Improvement Company. This led the couple to invest in real estate and other opportunities in the towns he oversaw. They were instrumental in establishing several towns, including Caldwell, Weiser, Payette, Shoshone, and Haley, Idaho. In 1911, Adell published her most notable work, 15,000 Miles by Stage, an often humorous and perceptive memoir illustrated by famed Western artist Charles M. Russell. The book is filled with vivid descriptions and reflections on her experiences. She wrote the following on the adventure and hardships of travel, and I quote, "We traveled through the wildest, most unfrequented, and most beautiful regions of the great Northwest, climbing mountains and fording rivers, sometimes on horseback, and again in rude wagons or on the great Concord stages, once with no shelter but the starlit sky." End quote. And on the stunning landscape, she continues, "The grandeur and beauty of these majestic mountains, with their snow-capped peaks, the charm of the green valleys, and the sparkling streams, are indescribable and make one feel nearer to the creator of all of this loveliness." End quote. She obviously had a deep appreciation for the natural beauty of the American West that, coupled with her adventurous spirit, her resilience in the face of the many challenges encountered during her travels, is a testament to what an outstanding woman she was. The couple made Spokane, Washington their permanent home in 1898, where she was a member of the Esther Reed chapter, Daughters of the American Revolution. Truly a dazzling daughter. Well, Adell passed away at the age of 71 in 1925, a life and adventure well lived. In 1970, a new DAR chapter was organized in Spokane to honor Carrie Adell Strahorn. The chapter was named after her Patriot ancestor, Jonas Babcock. A woman of such importance to our nation's expansion should not be lost to history. Her contributions to the historical narrative of the American West are invaluable. She captured the essence of a formative period of our nation's history through her detailed and engaging storytelling. We're so grateful for these amazing DAR sisters and are committed to ensuring their stories are not lost to time. As we're in the midst of our wonderful patriotic holidays, we wanted to share a few ideas with you to bring back to your chapters and to your communities. Truly fun and exemplary actions and activities to enjoy. All activities that we found on our Americanism Committee page on our national website. The Chickamauga chapter of Chattanooga, Tennessee was privileged to serve at a naturalization ceremony at which 47 candidates from 28 countries joyfully received their American citizenship. Favors presented to each included a beautiful copy of the Oath of Allegiance for framing, dated and signed by the chapter's regent, a card printed with the Pledge of Allegiance and the American's Creed, an American flag lapel pin, and a handheld American flag. After the ceremony, the chapter served refreshments and saw many excited and happy faces as the new fellow Americans expressed their gratitude for this opportunity. In Pennsylvania, the Robert Morris-Quaker City chapter NSDAR created a very fun, creative patriotic game, Americanism Jeopardy! Circumstances forced them to play via Zoom instead of in a regular chapter meeting, but what a fun thing to do. Imagine a Jeopardy! Board with categories such as American democracy, American history, or amendments, and then imagine the questions and answers you could create to play the game with your chapter. The wheels inside my brain are certainly spinning thinking about this idea, aren't yours? Meanwhile, in another area of the state, the Independence Hall chapter in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, marched in the Philadelphia Veterans Day Parade, carrying a 20-foot by 30-foot flag with their family and friends. The chapter has partnered with Barry Johnson from Saving Hallowed Ground in the Philadelphia Veterans Day Parade for the last 5 years. These ideas don't have to be elaborate. They don't even have to require much in the way of resources. Imagine just singing together as a chapter at the close of your meeting. Ask someone in advance to choose a heartwarming patriotic song. Just that simple act reminds us of our love for our country and for our fellow man. We set the example in our communities. We set the tone on our street, in our neighborhoods. This is who the DAR is today. Well, we leave you today with this quote by American writer Harriet Prescott Spofford. "Ah, happy day, refuse to go, hang in the heavens forever so, forever in mid-afternoon, ah, happy day of happy June." Well, thanks for listening and be well, dear friends. Let's celebrate the stars and stripes forever and remember, with all of your ancestors behind you, you are the result of the love of thousands. This podcast was written and produced by our incredible team of writers and editors, and we are, as always, so grateful for President General Pamela Edwards Rouse Wright and Historian General Suzanne Heskey for their constant guidance. To Rihanna Victor, a Washington State daughter, for sending us the wonderful information about our dazzling daughter, Carrie Adell Strahorn. Thank you, Rihanna. And to Yvonne Lazur, the National Chair of the Americanism Committee, and to the Chickamauga, the Robert Morris-Quaker City, and the Independence Hall chapter regents for sending in their patriotic activities. The National Society Daughters of the American Revolution is a non-profit, non-political, volunteer women's service organization dedicated to promoting patriotism, preserving American history, and securing America's future through better education for children. Members are all lineal descendants of those who supported the cause of independence in the Revolutionary War. For more information, please visit dar.org. This is the DAR Today podcast.